Hello, I'm Zahil Alam. Welcome you all on Frankly Speaking. Our today's guest is Mrs. Thoraya Ahmed Obaid, Executive Director of United Nations Population Fund UNFPA, the world's largest multilateral source of population assistance. She is in Bangladesh, and we welcome Mrs. Thoraya Ahmed Obaid on Frankly Speaking. How are you, ma'am?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very good.
Thank you. You have already met some leaders, including Prime Minister, government leaders, ministers, and some stakeholders, and you have already observed some population program in Bangladesh. So what are your observations about the population program in Bangladesh, and what is the condition and ground experience?
I was very honored to be able to meet all the officials of Bangladesh, and especially the Prime Minister. It was a very positive meeting. And one can see the commitment of the government to the issues of population, and this has been population has been high on the development agenda of Bangladesh for many years. So there is progress, and we can see that, for example, family size, number of children has gone down from 6 to 3, which is quite a development for many countries. Girls' education has gone up, and thanks to the programs to promote the girls' education by providing support in the school. And I think this is a very important initiative, because if girls can get educated, then they will get married later, they will make better decisions about their family, they will use family planning methods, and as a result, this will have a positive impact on the population size.
Sorry.
So there is progress, but also I think the government, and the progress has come in spite of the fact that Bangladesh has financial constraints, economic constraints, and so on. But as you would expect also, there are many challenges remaining, and I think the government in all the ministries are very much aware of these challenges.
So you were saying you are satisfied with the progress being made?
I am satisfied in the sense that Bangladesh has come a long way. But together with our support, the support of the multilaterals, the bilaterals, all the stakeholders, I think Bangladesh can move much faster and also in greater steps. And of course, there is no perfection, and there are always challenges. And I believe that Bangladesh can move forward if all the necessary resources are made. The effective use of resources is also made at the correct time in the correct place.
Ma'am, you know that the maternal mortality rate unacceptably high in the developing countries, and it is also high in Bangladesh. So what long and immediate actions should be taken to alleviate and to tackle this challenge, the maternal mortality in this?
Well, you know, maternal mortality, maternal health is one of the goals, the Millennium Development Goals, that have been approved by heads of governments and states in the summit that took place in September. And to ensure maternal health and to decrease maternal mortality in particular, there are 3 interventions that have to take place. The first one is to be sure that we have a trained birth attendant at the time of birth, who is not only trained to deliver, but also to make referrals, which means the health system also has to be equipped to deal with the cases that are difficult, that are referred, and they would have emergency obstetric care. So the first one is skilled birth attendants, the second one is emergency obstetric care, and the third one is family planning, so that women can plan their children and have correct spacing between them. And I believe these programs are in place in Bangladesh, but we need to improve the quality and scale up the responses.
One of the major goals of MDGs is to reduce the infant mortality and to empower women. So what about the other object? Are you close to achieve those goals globally?
There is nothing called globally we achieve the goals. These goals are country specific. And so countries will differ. Some countries will achieve all the goals. Other countries will achieve some and not others. And then some countries may not achieve any of them by 2015. So we work with each country, we and many other, the United Nations as a whole, as well as other supporters. We work with governments to put very realistic objectives and targets so they can move toward reaching them by 2015. So as I said, we may have very happy stories in 2015, but may also have stories that are not as happy and disappointing.
So how Bangladesh been going forward with the Millennium Development Goals by 2015?
I think they are moving fairly well in the area, for example, of girls' education. And that's one of the issues that are in the Millennium Development Goals in terms of education. So I think in that area, both for young boys and young girls, especially young girls. But in order to reach that, we know that there are dropouts out of the secondary school age, for girls specifically. So we want to ensure that they will continue to be in school until they finish that. That's one of the goals. Hopefully, if all the plans that are set will follow as they are set, we should get improvement in maternal health, and we should get improvement in infant and child health.
In 1994, the world leaders met in Cairo, an international conference on population and development, and they also agreed adopted a plan of action, an emphasis on the sexual and reproductive health for the people. So how for achievements and progress the world leaders could meet on this in this regard?
World leaders in 1994, as you said, met and agreed, not world leaders, it was really at the ministerial level, met and took a very clear decision to ensure universal access to reproductive health by 2015. And reproductive health basically means the mental and physical well-being of women and men, and women especially through the different cycles of their life. It means that they are free of disease. It means that they have better health conditions. It also means they're free of violence, and they are able to, education is promoted. So it's a package of services that are to promote the health well-being from a reproductive point of view. In Muslim countries like ours, people always pray for health and always pray for children, reproductive. Here you have reproductive health together. So in a sense, you have double prayers and double blessing, because if you have reproductive health for everybody, then it's double prayers that have been heard. And this is a very positive aspect of people's lives. So promoting reproductive health in Bangladesh is very important. What is important, again, in terms of leadership, in the summit that took place, the World Summit that took place in New York in September, world leaders there reaffirmed the universal access to reproductive health by 2015, and they said they will make every effort to be able to achieve it. And they asked that these special targets will be linked to all the MDGs and will be linked with national plans. So this is where we are. We are working with governments, and governments are taking the leadership, of course, to be able to integrate universal access to reproductive health by 2015 in all their development plans.
But in last year, the world leaders, you were saying that they committed many things, but they also committed for huge resource mobilization for the poor countries to steer and to get forward this program to ensure the reproductive health by 2015.
Certainly. This was really started in Mexico in 2003 in the Conference on Financing for Development, where donor countries had committed themselves to 0.7 of the official ODA to go to development. This was reinforced again in the September summit, that yes, you need additional resources to come. It can be resources that you take it from this pocket and put it in this pocket. It has to be fresh money in order to push development. But they also said that they, as leaders of developing countries, hold themselves accountable to make the best use of these funds that will be generated, and they will make funds available from the national budget as well to work with international money in order to ensure the agenda is achieved, the whole MDG agenda is achieved. And it's interesting, for 7 of the development goals, the responsible governments are the developing. For goal number 8, the donor countries, industrial countries, are the ones who are responsible, and many of them have taken it seriously. In fact, many of them have to report to their Congress, to their parliaments, about whether they are going to achieve the 0.7 and when they will achieve it. 3 countries, European countries, have achieved 1%, and that's quite encouraging, and we hope the other donors are moving up that way.
Maybe one powerful country accuses UNFPA of supporting abortions. Our guest is Mrs. Thoraya Ahmed Obaid, Executive Director, UNFPA, who is visiting Bangladesh. Well, Mrs. Obaid, we're telling about the some powerful country accuses UNFPA of supporting abortions. What is the case? What is the UNFPA's positions about that?
Actually, our major donor used to be #1 donor is the United States, and it has decided in 2001, implemented in 2002, not to provide funding to United Nations Population Fund, as well as to the International Family Planning Association. However, having said this, for us, for UNFPA, it is the government is basing its decision on something called the Kemp-Kasten Amendment, which is a Congress amendment that says that US money should not go to any organization that participates in coercive population policies. So they consider that our presence in China as being supporting the government in its one-child policy. However, through our programs, we have shown that in the counties where we work, 32 counties where we work, abortion has gone down. There is better quality of services. Men and women, family members, husband and wife, are able to make decisions regarding the number of children they want. So it was a success story, and China has taken the principle and is expanding it to 800 counties. So in that sense, China has responded. And we will continue, because we believe engagement with the policies of China are the most important role that we can play. United Nations Population Fund is a United Nations organization. It is neutral. It serves member states. And we are in the country upon the invitation of the host country itself. And therefore, our relationship with China remains a relationship of respect, but also a relationship in which we work with them to be able to implement the ICPD principle of free choice and being able to plan one family without having to make the decisions about one's family. And I think we have succeeded in that model. It needs further expansion.
Well, ma'am, following the ICPD, those nations who gave attention much with the family planning and health issues, they are deemed to be neglected, and it resulted a slide in the family planning program. Do you agree with this?
Well, in each country, including Bangladesh, there was a period. Bangladesh is not the only country, as you said. There are countries where it's not necessarily that the work on family planning has gone down, but resources are shifted in different ways. And in many countries, there was a plateau for a number of years with the same fertility rate. Here you have Bangladesh. They went through 6-7 years of plateauing. Egypt is another example where there was this kind of plateau. However, once the government reviews its policy and realizes that that plateau, which is in the social sector, is not helping it in the economic sector, they are reinvesting again and pushing the decision in terms of supporting family planning. And you see a beginning trend downward again. Population issues remain a priority in all the countries in which we work. And our role is to help the countries when they're plateauing to kind of, put new fuel to get the engine working again.
You know that reproductive health is a very sensitive issue in terms of religious and cultural area. So how do you deal with this sensitive issue?
Well, I come from a Muslim country, so I know the feelings, the beliefs, the values, and so on. And actually, in Islam, reproductive health is, as I said, one of the blessings. If you have health and you have children, you have the best response from God to your needs. What is important is that any programs that are put in place take into consideration the context of the society, because you can't bring change from outside. The people themselves have to adopt the change and go with it. Therefore, it's very important that any development assistance understands the values of the culture, understands the religion and the beliefs of the people, and through the people themselves and the leaders, the community leaders themselves, work with them to find what is better in order to bring about change. For example, if you take again Islam, and today I'm going to be addressing the Imams. In the Quran, it says, Al-jannatu tahta aqdam al-ummahat. Paradise is under the feet of mothers. how can we let mothers die then, if God has honored them so much? So understanding these principles and using the principles to promote against maternal mortality, ensuring that women can receive health services and so on, is a very important way of dealing with issues of population. And I think community leaders, imams, as well as political leaders have a very important role to play in ensuring that we work through the culture and change what is negative in terms of practices. Because not all the practices are religious. Some of them are social practices that we put in place, so we can change them that way.
So you're a Muslim, so do you see any or believe any contradiction between Islam and the equality of women, their rights, their empowerment, and end of discrimination?
Certainly, if I saw any differences, I wouldn't be a practicing Muslim as I am. In fact, in Islam, many of the issues that we raise in the modern Western context, for example, economic independence, in Islam, there is a whole principle of the economic independence of women. So the principles are there, but they get distorted in how we practice them. So we need to push that the practices are in line with the principles and the spirit that enshrine an equal sense for women in Islam.
You know, the media is very important and critical for changing the behavior of the people. So do you have any program to enhance the capacity for media to contribute to in this area? What do you look?
We work with many journalists here in Bangladesh and in other countries. We have networks usually of media people. Not that we want them to say what we want, but for them to be educated about the programs. So they will write and they will produce programs just as you are producing a program out of knowledge. So that knowledge is the one that will be the basis of what they say rather than rumors or what is exciting. And I think you are a very good example of somebody who has done your homework. You know a lot about UNFPA. You know a lot about the agenda of population and development. And therefore, having media people like you is really a pleasure to be able to talk to them.
Thank you very much. But you always emphasize some points, especially on the young generation who is knocking at the adulthood. And so what are the programs you undertake to aware them about their sexual issues and their health?
Young people are living through a transition stage in all our countries. There are influences from outside. There are ideas and values that are coming from the outside, and therefore we need to understand what the young people are going through. Our programs are aimed to provide them with information about their bodies, the changes that take place. This is one aspect, which is the reproductive health aspect, but also we need to focus on other issues that they face. How do they treat women? How do they look at their family, sister, future wife, and so on? And that respect for women is an important part of being healthy. Healthy family, healthy individuals. So as they learn about reproductive health and the responsibility as men towards women and responsibility about themselves, they also learn about HIV/AIDS and how to protect themselves. They learn about sexually transmitted diseases as a way of keeping themselves healthy, because we say a healthy mind is in a healthy body. And so they cannot be productive if they are not healthy. That's a good part of the program. But we also work with NGOs and the government and so on to also provide some skill development so they can learn skills to be able to earn some resources. And we work with others on these projects.
So very last question is, you're so the national and you're the first who head a UN agency. So how are you enjoying being a Muslim and being a lady in top of?
Well, it's very wonderful, actually. First, it takes away the stereotype that you see on what I call the CNN effect of women who are only oppressed. Muslim women, like all women in the world, and Muslim societies, like all societies in the world, you have the positive and you have the negative. You have women who are beaten up, women who are ill because there is not enough health care, but you also have women like me who are educated and working. And I think taking us as an example of how we can move forward will help us in changing the lives of many women who are suffering, not only in Muslim countries, but across the world. This is really the major objective or the passion for me as a Muslim woman in this position is to ensure that all women can have some of the life, or maybe the best life that they can have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Thoraya Ahmed Obaid, for joining us on Frankly Speaking. Thank you.